Hello and welcome to today's lesson, which is gradient of a straight line. Now there's loads of different ways you can work out the gradient of a straight line, but we're going to be focusing on two today. We're going to be focusing on the equation of a line between 2 points and if we've actually got the graph as well. So let's have a look at this first one. Now this one here says, what is the gradient of the line that passes through 0, 0? So let's write this down, example 1. So the one that passes through 0, 0 and 2, 6. Now, my key suggestion with these type of questions is to always draw out a sketch of the graph. Okay. Now, this is important for two reasons. The first reason is that it helps you to see whether the gradient is positive or negative, and we'll talk about that in a second. And the next thing is that it's easy to see the triangle which we're going to draw, and we'll talk about that in a second. So it doesn't have to be an actual graph, I'm just talking about a sketch here. So from 0, 0 to 6, so just draw a little sketch like this. So 0, 0 I know is in the centre there, so 0, 0, 2, 6 up, so let's do that, 2, 6, like so. Notice I've just drawn a sketch, doesn't have to be anything too fancy. So now the key to finding out the gradient of any line is to draw a triangle on the graph. So if I've got this line here, this straight line, I'm going to connect these points up with a right-angled triangle. Now the reason that I do that is because the gradient of, so M, now this M here, you might think, why is he writing an M? M stands for gradient when we're doing it. We'll talk about why that is later on. But right now, M is the gradient is equal to the change in y over the change in x. Now, the other way you could write that if you wanted to, I'm going to change this M to gradient just so it's really clear. The gradient is equal to the y difference, I might say. You could write this in any way you want. The y difference over the x difference, they're all kind of the same. And what we do is here, once we've drawn this triangle, you see how high the triangle is for your coordinates. So in this case, now I'm going to do this in a particular colour. So I'm going to look at the y, which is the second. Remember, it's x, y. So it's going to be from 0 up to 6. So for my gradient, how do I get from 0 to 6? Well, that height there, from 0 to 6, is going to be equal to 6, isn't it? And then how far across is it? What's the change in x? Well, I'm going to do this one in green. Well, this here, from 0 here over to 2, so from 0 here to 2, is going to be across by 2. So it's going to be 6 up here with my triangle, and across by 2. Okay, 6 up, 2 across. And it's the change in y over the change in x. That's how we find out how steep it is. So gradient is a measure of steepness. So if the y is much bigger than the x, it's going to be a lot steeper, isn't it? That's the way it works. Okay, so 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3. So this gradient here is equal to 3. Brilliant. So if you're happy with that, then maybe pause now and have a little go at that one on the right hand side. I'll make it big. If you're still not sure, then maybe let's just wait and we'll go through another one together. So what's the gradient of the line that passes through 0, 0 and 2, 10? So let's write those points down. So it's going to be from, remember this one here is example 2. So between 0, 0 and 2, 10. I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger now just so you can see it. So let's have a big old graph here. The bigger it is, the easier you can see it. And it's from 0, 0 there, like that. So this point, all the way up to 210. Now, when I'm drawing 210, I don't have to draw out the individual points. I can just go 2 across, 10 up, as long as I'm going roughly where it is, so 2, 10. And remember, these points form a straight line, and that's what we're finding the gradient of. We're not finding the gradient of 2 points, we're finding the gradient of the line which connects these 2 points. So I'll draw that on there like so. There's my straight line. Brilliant. Now remember I said the key to this is to draw a triangle between them. So I'm going to draw a right angled triangle coming straight down and across like that. So there's my right angled triangle. And remember the gradient m is equal to the change in that y. And I'm going to show you something else. Some people use this. So this is a way of saying the change. So it's the change in y over the change in x. Okay. So what do I mean by the change in y? Well, it's how far up it's going here. Well, how far up is it going? Well, it's going from, in this case, 0, remember, all the way up to 10. So this one here, the change here is going to be 10, the y. And then across, I'm going from 0 here across to 2. So it's 2 across. So it's across 2, up 10. Which means my gradient is equal to the change in y, which is 10, divided by 2, which is equal to 5. Which means this one's quite steep, okay? So my gradient there is equal to 5. Brilliant. Super. So my steepness of this one was 5. The steepness of the last one is 3. Okay, super. So, let's have a look. Let's just check those answers. 3 and 5, brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look at this one now. Now, what makes this one different? So what is the gradient of the line that passes through 0, 0 and 2 minus 6? Now the difference and the thing that always makes these trickier is that negative. So I'm going here, this is example 3, between 0, 0 and 2 minus 6. Now when I'm going to draw this one, I'm going to draw it nice and big again. Now because I'm going down minus 6, I'm going to do my lines like this. I'm kind of thinking ahead here. So my first one there is 0, 0, and 2 minus 6 is 2 across, minus 6 down. So 2 comma minus 6, and remember it's the line that connects both of those. So put my line on there, and I'm finding the gradient of the line. That's what I'm doing, okay? I'm finding this steepness of the line. Now the first thing to notice, compared to the last one, is that this gradient here is going down. So this is going to be a negative gradient, okay? And that's why it's important to draw these out. So when I'm doing this, I create a right angled triangle again. So straight up there and straight across. Super. So with this one here, again, it's exactly the same. It's always the same. M is equal to the change in y over the change in x. So the change in y this time is going to be from 0 down to 6, okay? So from 0 down to 6. Now, you could, if you want, there's two ways to think about this. We know that it's a negative gradient, so we know that it must be, we know it's going down, so we can see that it's a negative gradient, so this must be negative. If I'm doing this, notice that 0 down to 6 is minus 6. So this one here, although that height is 6, I'm actually going down by 6, okay? So I could put minus 6 there if I want, because I'm going down. However, you might just want to say that it's minus 6 in this here. So we've got a minus 6 all over, and this one here, well, I'm going 2 across, aren't I? So this one here is, let's do it in green, so you can see it. So I'm going from 0 to 2. The distance across is 2. So it's going to be minus 6 over 2. So my gradient in this one is equal to minus 3. Okay, tricky that one because it's going down this time. So maybe pause now and have a little go at that one on the right hand side. It's another negative one. Pause now and have a little go at that. Okay, let's do it together. So this time I'm going from 0, 0 to 3 minus 12. So I'm going to draw it nice and big again. 0, 0, 3 across, minus 12 down. Now notice that there looks exactly the same as the last graph I did, but I've just changed the numbers. That's okay, that's fine. 3 minus 12. And remember, it's the gradient of the line that I'm finding. So this one here, like so. This is my line. What do I do next? Well, if I'm finding the gradient, I need to draw that right angle triangle between my two coordinates. I know that the gradient is equal to the change in y over the change in x. So in this case, my y change is going to be from, always the left-hand one, from 0 down to 12, so it's minus 12 down there. And then my change in y is from 0 to 3, so positive 3. So my gradient is equal to, m is equal to, now we know that it's going to be negative because we can see that it's going down. So minus 12 over 3, so m is equal to minus 4, negative 4. Brilliant. Super. Let's just check those two answers. Okay, so let's have a look at this one here. This one here is example 5. Now, this one here is the line that passes through 2, 5, and 4, 11. So this one here is getting a little bit trickier now. You might be able to spot why it's a little bit trickier. With this one here, the ones we've looked at previously, we're looking at starting at 0, 0, and then going to coordinates, so it's quite easy. But this time, we're starting at 2, 5, and going to 4, 11. So again, it's really important that we draw a nice big graph so we can see. So we draw it across. It doesn't have to be, you don't need coordinates in terms of your steps. So from 2, 5, so 2 across, 5 up is going to be, let's say, here, 2, 5, which is there. Doesn't have to be perfect, but what we do need to think about is the fact 4 is further across and 11 is further up. So 4, 11 is going to be there like that. And we're connecting up these two coordinates. Remember, when we're finding the gradient, we're finding the gradient of the line, not the gradient of 2 points, the gradient of the line that connects these 2 points. Now, very similar to what we've done already, with these ones, we need to draw a right angle triangle. Now, remember that the gradient formula doesn't change. M, which stands for gradient, is the change in y over the change in x. Now, the difference with this one here is we've got to see how high up it is. So we're going from 5 to 11. Now, if you wanted to, you could dot these across, couldn't you? You don't have to do this. But how high is that? Well, if I'm going from 5 to 11, okay, well, from 11 to 5 is 6. Okay, 11 take away 5 there. What's that difference there? 6. So I've done that one in red. Let's have a look at this one now. From 2 to 4. Again, I could dot these lines down, couldn't I? So what's the difference between 2 and 4? Well, between 4 and 2, it's going to be 2. So the change in y over the change in x. So in this case, m is equal to 6 over 2. So 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3, which means the steepness of my line is 3 in this case. Brilliant. So pause now and have a little go at that one on the right hand side. Pause now and have a little go at that one. Okay, let's do this one together then. So this time here, I think this one's actually a little bit easier than the last one. So 1, 1 and 3, 4. Going to draw a nice big graph again. Just check gradient for line. Yeah. So 1, 1, 3, 4. So 1, 1. Let's call that there. 1, 1. 3, 4. Let's put that there. 3, 4. Remember, the gradient is the gradient of that line, not the points. Okay. So it's the gradient of this line. So I draw my right angle triangle like so. Perfect. Just like that. Draw a right angle. And remember, it's the change in y over the change in x. My gradient m is equal to the change in y over the change in x. Now that triangle there means the change, just in case you weren't sure what that triangle means again. So how far up does it go? It's going from 1 to 4. Remember, it's the right hand side, it's going to be x and y. Yeah, so y is from 1 to 4, which is going to be 3 in this case. And then x is from 1 to 3, so which is 2 in this case. You could draw the lines across. Don't need to do that. So m is equal to 3 over 2 which is equal to 1.5. Brilliant. So let's just check those answers. Let's see what we got. 3 and 1.5. Brilliant. Super. So what's up next? So we've looked at positive gradients and negative gradients when they start at 0. We've looked at positive gradients when they don't start at 0. So now we're going to be looking at negative gradients that don't start with 0. So do make sure you're getting these down in your notes. Remember, the only way to learn maths is to do it. So this one here is example 7. Now this one here, so it's not going anywhere on left, but it's going down. It's going to be from 3, 4 to 6 minus 8. So draw a nice big graph again. So 3 across, 4 up, let's put that there. 6 across, 8 down is going to be down here. So 3, 4, 6, minus 8. And remember, it's the line that we're drawing that's the gradient we're finding. I draw a right angle triangle, like so. There's my right angle. So how high up is this? Now this one's a little bit trickier now. And the reason that it's a little bit tricky is because I'm going down negative. So I'm looking from 4 to minus 8. So here is from 4 all the way down to minus 8, which is there. Well, from there to there is 4. From there to there is 8, isn't it? So from here to here is going to be 4 plus 8, which is a height of 12. But it's going down, remember. Going from this point to here is going down by 12. Super. How far across am I going? Well, that one's a little bit easier, I think. I'm going from 3 over to 6. So from 3 to 6 is 3, like so. So my gradient m is equal to my change in y over the change in x. So m is equal to the change in y, which in this case is minus 12, over the change in x, which is 3. So negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4 there, like so. So a steep one going down. So let's check those two answers. Okay, so let's have a little go at that one on the right hand side. So pause now and have a little go at that one there. So pause now and have a go at that one on the right. Okay, so let's have a go at this one together then. So it's 4, 3 to 6 minus 1. So from 4 to 3, let's draw our graph. Nothing left again, nice and big graph. So this one here, 4, 3 is there. 4, 3. 6 is further across and minus 1 is down. So 6 minus 1. And remember, I'm drawing a line between these like so. Always worth drawing this graph so we can see whether it's positive or negative. I draw a right angle triangle like so. There we go. Now this one here, I think the change in y is probably the hardest one. Change in y over the change in x. So the change in y in this case is between 3 and minus 1, which is 4. If you want to see that, 3 is there. Minus 1 is there. So from 3 and 1 is 4. And then from 4 to 6, done that one in red. Let's do this one in green. From 4 to 6 is 2 across. So my gradient m is going to be, now, that should be 4 down, shouldn't it? It's coming down, and we know it's a negative gradient, which is going to be minus 4 over 2, which is equal to negative 2. Brilliant. Super. So let's check those answers. Let's see how we get on with them. Minus 4, minus 2. Brilliant. Okay. So let's have a look at these two now. Now, this is just an extension of what we've already done. There's nothing trickier here. Now, this one on the left-hand side pretty much is exactly the same. It's just starting to draw on the graph for you, which is nice of them, isn't it? And that one on the right hand side, again, is exactly the same, but the difference with this one is they don't give you any points. So you've got to find out what those points are yourself. So let's make this big. Now notice these are 2 marks, so this has come up on a past paper before. Okay, so 2 marks for this one. Okay, let's have a go at it together. So this first one here, they've actually nicely drawn our graph for you, which is across here like this, and they've gone -4, 6. So -4, 6, which is there, and then 8, 3. So 8, 3, 8 across, 3 up isn't as high, 8, 3. And remember, we're finding the gradient of the line that connects these. Okay, we draw a right angle triangle, like so, there. So the gradient m is equal to the change in y over the change in x. Now the change in y I think is probably easier this time. So remember, it's the right hand number, so between 6 and 3. Well, between 6 and 3 is 3. The change there is 3. Now this one's a little bit harder, because I'm going from -4 to 0, then to 8, which is going to be, so -4 to 0 is 4, plus another 8 is actually 12 across there, isn't it? Okay, so made a little mistake, because that should be -3, shouldn't it? Because it's coming down from there, and that one's going across. So this one here is going to be equal to, the change in y is -3. The change in x is 12 all the way across there. Now this here comes out as a fraction. We're going to simplify that. So how many times does 12 go into 3? So 3 goes into 3 once. So -1 over 3, it goes into 12 4 times. So -1 over 4 for that one. Super. Okay. Now, if you want to pause and have a go at this last one on the right-hand side now, so maybe pause and have a little go at that, if you can. I wouldn't worry too much about drawing it out completely, just pick 2 points. So if I have a look at this one, then the points I'm going to pick on this one are, the first one I'm going to pick on the y-axis, which is 0, 3. And the other one I'm going to pick is actually 3, 1 across there, so 3, 1, and the reason I've picked those is because they are actual coordinates on the graph. Okay, so here I draw my line. Okay, draw it across. 0, 3 we know is there, we can see it on the graph, and then 3, 1 is there. 3, 1. Here's my gradient, like so, my line. Going to draw a right angle triangle connecting them. Brilliant. Now it doesn't matter which lines you pick on here. You could pick any points at all. They would always be the same. Okay, so don't worry about that, which points you pick. As long as you do, m is equal to the change in y over the change in x. So the change in y in this case, well, how high it is. Well, it's going to go from 3 down to 1, which is going to be -2, isn't it, from 3 to 1, and then I'm going from 0 to 3, so that's going to be 3 across. So with this one here, my gradient m is equal to -2 over 3, like so. We can't simplify that, so that one's done. So 2 2-mark questions there. Brilliant. Let's check those answers. They've both come up in GCSE before. -1/4, -2 over 3. Brilliant. Okay, so let's have a go at some of these ourselves. So pause now and have a little go at those. Okay, so pause now and have a go at those. Okay, so let's mark these in green then. Mark them in green. Super. So thank you for watching this lesson on gradients. Make sure you're having a go at these questions, because remember, the only way to learn maths is to do it. Make sure we're drawing our graphs. Make sure we're checking whether it's positive or negative. Oh, wrong way around. Positive or negative, whichever way it is on the here. And have a lovely day. Thank you for watching.